Joining us now is autism specialist and administrator, Down Syndrome Foundation, Nigeria, Anu Shebanjo. It's nice to have you join me.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Great. Now, when it comes to the issue of autism, there has been continuous, over the years, there has been enlightenment on issues around autism, how to manage people with autism and all of that. But how much of that are parents, society, and caregivers practicalizing?
Management of children or individuals with autism is based on the level of awareness of the parents, the caregivers, and the society at large. If a parent has a child with autism and the parent himself does not know that the child has autism, because autism, as it is a neurodevelopmental disorder and it doesn't show on face. Any child that has autism looks like a neurotypical child, except if the child exhibits certain behaviors. So the parents themselves might not know, they might not be aware of what the challenge is. And so management will be very, very difficult because probably there is no diagnosis, there's no awareness, nothing about it. A lot of people believe, there are some myths that surround all these disabilities, that maybe the child is possessed, has a banjee and all that. So they might be locked up in the houses, might be taken to churches and all that, and then proper management procedures will not be implemented.
You talked about the aspect of diagnosis. How do parents get to the point, or what are the signs and symptoms? How do parents get to know that this child either has Down syndrome or something? Yes,
for Down syndrome, as soon as the child is born, there are certain physical features that will be seen in the child. Will have a flat nose, the short limbs, a relatively large tongue, and all that. It is so physical for Down syndrome. Although for autism, it is not physical. It is not noticeable until 18 months and above with autism. But with Down syndrome, as soon as the child is born, it is being detected. Even in the advanced countries, when scan is done, they can actually detect it. But here in Nigeria, when the child is born, you can know immediately because of these physical features.
All right. We have to leave it here, but this conversation will continue so people can learn more about this. Thank you very much, Anu, for coming on the program.
You're welcome.
Joining us now is autism specialist and administrator, Down Syndrome Foundation, Nigeria, Anu Shebanjo. It's nice to have you join us now.
Thank you. Good welcome.
Right. Now, make us understand, what's the difference between Down syndrome and autism?
Okay. Down syndrome is a genetic condition. It is a congenital, and it is caused by the trisomy 21, one extra chromosome. As we all know, the father has to donate 23, and the mother 23. We should have 46 in a child. But for children with Down syndrome, we have 47. There is always this one extra chromosome in them. And when they're given birth to, there are physical features that make us know that the child has a Down syndrome. The shape of the eyes, the head size, head shape, the toes, we have a plump toes. Sometimes they're plump themselves and all that. So all these ones, and relatively large tongue, all these ones are indicators that the child has a Down syndrome. But for autism is a neurodevelopmental condition. In children, it is characterized by three major symptoms. We call it triad of impairment: the delayed speech, lack of social skills, and exhibition of inappropriate behaviors. For children with a Down syndrome, most of them look very, very normal. They look normal in quotes. Okay. All children are normal. So they look neurotypical like every other child. But for children with Down syndrome, they don't. And then for autism, because up to today they said it is idiopathic. The medical expert says that the cause is idiopathic. That is, it is not known.
Okay. Oh.
It is not known, and it has no cure. But for Down syndrome, there is a known cause, that it is caused by one extra chromosome. So their management, there are similarities in the way they are being managed, even though they exhibit different symptoms.
Talk to us about that.
Well, for children with Down syndrome, most of them come with congenital conditions like hole in the heart diseases, and all that. It happens for most of the time. Children with Down syndrome come with that one. Sometimes they have strabismus, eye deviation, and all that. But for children with with autism, there are series. It's a spectrum. So there are a series of symptoms that they show. Sometimes they have sensory processing disorders. Sometimes they have dietary issues. And when they have the sensory processing disorders, they might either be hypo or hypersensitive to touch, to light, to sound. Then sometimes they have dietary problems. Some of them are very sensitive to gluten and the casein containing diets. That is for children with autism. Not all of them, but some of them react to such. But for children with Down syndrome, it is not like that with them. Okay. Then there are some things they share in common, that they have in common. Right. For example, delayed speech. For children with autism, it's one of the symptoms. Not all of them, yes, they have delayed speech. Okay. Then they have social skills problem. They don't develop social skills. They don't relate with others.
Right. It's good you've broken it down for us to understand the difference, which is part of the enlightenment too. Thank you very much, Anu, for coming on the program.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Joining us now is autism specialist and administrator, Down Syndrome Foundation Nigeria, Anu Shebanjo. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining us on TVC Breakfast. We know what is on the ground now, COVID-19. And one wonders how much of a risk this poses to people or children that are living with Down syndrome, and how can it be prevented?
Okay. Just the way you and I, we are at risk of this thing, just that same way is the way they are also at risk. So preventive measures that everyone is taking is the one that should be taken by them, but they cannot implement this on their own. So as a foundation, Down Syndrome Foundation Nigeria, the first thing we did was that, like this month of March is the month of Down syndrome awareness. So we have programs lined up this month, like 21st of March, worldwide is the World Down Syndrome Day. They were supposed to have that one in collaboration with the United Nations. So what we did, we canceled all our programs so that we don't expose them to the public. We canceled it, then we shut, even before this shut down by schools and all that, we had shut down our gates. We didn't entertain any guests, no parents. We didn't entertain until the government said the students, there should be shut down of schools. So we shut down the schools. No child is left at the foundation as we speak. And then as the parents pick them, because the parents are in different locations, different parts of the country, so we sent messages to them. They came, we sent through phone calls, through emails and all that. They came, they picked the children. But then we didn't just leave it like that. We now did virtual communication with the parents. We gave outlines that will be sent home to them about what they can do, how they can, the personal hygiene, self-help skills, even educational work that can be to follow up so that they don't regress. That one is there. And then the kind of nature they have, some of them have a personal, some ailments they have that go alongside with the condition they have. So for those ones that need, we implore that parents allow them stay at home. And if at all they have to visit the hospital, they should try and let them use nose mask compulsorily. They should use it. They should use hand sanitizers. They should allow them wash their hands constantly and try as much as possible to let them go back home immediately, and should not stick to the TV screen always, because some of them have visual issues. Yes, so they shouldn't stay close to the TV.
And the television
always,
could
yes.
compound.
Exactly, and all that. Even children generally, they shouldn't stay glued to the TV sets at all times. So we keep on getting in touch with the parents so that we expect feedback from them too, to know they're actually doing the right thing. We ask them to do.
When it comes to the issue of care for people with Down syndrome, how much of that are parents knowledgeable about?
Yes, at the foundation, Down Syndrome Foundation Nigeria, we try as much as possible to educate the parents. Each time we have meetings, we still chip it in to let them know how to care for them, how to cater for them. Some of them lack basic independent daily living skills. So how to manage them, how to work with them. We try as much as possible for our own parents to educate them. And then when we have events outside, we do seminars, we invite parents generally of children with special needs with a particular attention to people living with Down syndrome. We educate them on how to care for their children living with Down syndrome.
One aspect that has to do, that I'd like for you to touch on, is self-confidence. How is that being built for these children that are dealing with issues of Down syndrome? Because oftentimes when they go mix up with other children, they seem to be stigmatized.
Yes, you're very right, there's stigmatization. But at the same time, for those that we have at the foundation, we have a set that we call the self-advocates. They're self-advocates. We take them through advocacy sessions. We partnered with Down Syndrome International. We sent some partners to us. We did the training together. We trained these self-advocates. And at the end of that training, last year, these people can come out to tell them confidently. They will tell them, I have rights. I have right to life. I have right to live. I have right to education. I have right to speak. I have right to complain. I have right to vote. I have right to marry. They all can tell you the rights they have, and they are exercising it. As a matter of fact, some parents are calling us to tell, if you ask this person to do this thing, they will tell us, I have the right to complain. And so it's been very, very wonderful. It's been
nice.
fantastic.
That's good. Anu Shabanjo, thank you for speaking.
You're welcome.
With us.
You're welcome.